Hi, and welcome to Mindful Moment Crochet. In this video we are going to be talking about color changes and what this looks like to change not only at the end of a row but also in the middle of the row, and how you can make them look almost seamless. When you get to the end of a row, or you'll see later when you get to the end of a stitch and you're ready to change colors, you might end up like this with one loop on your hook at the end of a row. What we want to do is just take out that, take out our hook and feed it back underneath the two that finished that stitch. So you can see right here, this loop is coming up underneath those two different loops. So I'm just gonna slip my crochet hook down the side there, and I'm going to use my black yarn here, so it's a pretty big difference. And you're just going to feed it onto the hook and pull through, and then you're going to pull out your first color. So now you have two loops and your new one is going to be that black yarn or whatever color you're using. Now I'm going to grab the working end of this yarn and I'm going to go ahead and make a chain to turn. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my first stitch and my second stitch to give it a little bit extra to hold on to. And now you might see that I'm starting to create a little bit of a gap here. So we're just going to snug it back down with the tail that we were originally working with. And so that way it just kind of snugs it into the edge there. And then as you go back to weave in this end, you're going to want to weave it up, and you're going to want to weave this yarn, your original color, down, and that's going to kind of pull them apart. So you'll weave this one down and this one up, and that will make your color change even more clean. As you go back across, it'll kind of start to level it out. So that's how I do color changes at the end of a row, is just to make sure that you are pulling in opposite directions when you weave it back in, so everything looks nice and cohesive. Now say we are middle of the row. Let's see. I ripped out my last stitch there. So I'm just going to chain one and turn, and we'll do a couple of stitches here just to get a little farther into the row. Alright, and same thing, you can go ahead and pull that yarn through if you want. You can also just leave it out if you want to try that method. I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm going to end with two, so instead of yarn over and finishing the stitch, I'm going to go ahead and grab my other color yarn. Oops. Just pull it through. Now I'm not going to worry too much about how tight this stitch is right now. I'm just going to go ahead and go on to my next stitch like I normally would. Pull that up. And then same thing, I just kind of want to tighten everything down. And so I think this is a really beginner friendly way to do color changes, so you're not trying to worry so much about your tension between the stitches. You just do the next stitch and then you just tighten up using the ends that you have. And so that then you're not worried about trying to get it all perfect in one movement. So this is how I do color changes, and again, if you wanted to pull the yarn up and weave it in to the black stitches, you totally can. Now if I were to want to kind of float this on the back, I'll show you what that might look like. So when I try to carry my colors, I'll grab my original working yarn and kind of lay it over in between the stitch and then finish it. And then same thing on the next one. Now I can just kind of zoom, and that way I'm not ending up with a tail that's hanging out here. I can just crochet right over that silver, and then when I get ready to change back to my silver, I'll have those same 2 loops. I'll drop my black yarn and I'll pull through with the silver yarn, and then I'm off to the next one. And again. So this is how I do color changes. You can certainly kind of play around with whatever method fits your style the best. But when you carry that tail underneath those stitches, I think it looks super clean on both sides, so you're not losing anything. So let's go into the next row and take a look at that one again, since that one's a little bit more complicated than just a normal color change. So let's say I just want to stack those black stitches on top of each other again. I'm going to go back with my silver and grab the black working yarn, pull through. We're not going to worry about the tension right now. And we will finish off our black stitches. And when we're done with our black stitches, oh, that was a goof. Let's try again. Okay. So for this first stitch, we want to bring the tail of our original color up and over, just to kind of tuck it in. I just like to kind of fumble with it and see where it's going to lay the best. And I'm going to finish that stitch, and now I can hold that silver right on top of my other stitches and crochet on top of it. So that silver yarn is going to lay right on top of those V's from the row below, and I'm just going to go under those V's. Now you can see again, we just want to fix our tension when we're done. So snug on that one, snug on all of our little ends here, and then it ends up quite nice. Once you also like weaving your ends, it will also kind of help with that tension. But on the next one, I'm assuming going back to the silver color, we'll pull this one out for just a second. And we can pull up that silver and go again. Yeah, perfect. And then that black will be hanging out for us to come back across with. And again, once you snip this off, you can weave it into the black. But that is how I do kind of my middle of the row color changes. It makes it super easy to do color work, so you're not having to stop what you're doing, pick up the other yarn, stop what you're doing, pick up the other yarn. You can opt for that. You can completely cut this off each time. Certainly an option. But if you're doing these little pieces, you can choose to use what's called a bobbin, which is where you would just kind of wind up little individual skeins of your yarn. So you might want to, you know, cake maybe half, depending on how many bobbins you need, right? So if you're doing color work, you would want one for each section of your colors. So you might want 2 or 3 little cakes, or kind of little mini skeins of this color, and then maybe 2 or 3 of your black if you were doing kind of a pattern across. But for example, if this were my entire work and I just had this one, I would want 2 bobbins of the gray, so one for this side and one for this side, and then I would want 1 bobbin, or in this case just 1 skein of the black, and that would let me use my colors without having to carry them across, because I would end this one when I was done over here. I would start the black in the black and then start back with the silver. That was my other bobbin. So you can also do color work with bobbins if you would like. But as far as color changes, you just wait till you have those 2 little loops, pull up your new color, and keep going. And like I said, you can kind of tighten everything down once you see how it's fitting together. And in my opinion, it makes it nice and crisp. There's not any big gaps or anything in the colors. And it looks pretty clean. So up to you. There are certainly other tutorials on YouTube on how to do color changes, but this is just my kind of favorite and easiest, is to use that 2 loop method. So yeah, let me know what works for you. Like, subscribe, and let me know if there's anything else I can help with in the comments.